Hi, I'm Aaron, and welcome to my YouTube channel, Healing with Aaron. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about Obsessive Compulsive Disorder, or OCD as it's commonly known. And I'm going to be talking about my own experience of OCD. I am not a therapist, so if you are suffering from OCD, please seek help from a licensed professional. And this is a sensitive subject, so please take careful consideration before you watch this video. So, what is OCD? Obsessive Compulsive Disorder is a mental health condition where people that suffer from it, they have unwanted, obsessive, intrusive thoughts and compulsive behaviours. And the symptoms are present, they're time-consuming, and they often come along with, a sense of fear, doubt, disgust, or shame. And, these fears can take the form of what-if questions, what will happen if this happens? And that can lead you to sort of spiral. An obsession is an unwanted and unpleasant thought, image, or urge or compulsion that repeatedly enters your mind, causing you then feelings of disgust, anxiety, or unease, like I've just said. And a compulsion, that is a repetitive behavior or a mental act or a ritual that you feel that you need to repeatedly do to relieve the unwanted and unpleasant feelings brought on by the obsessive thought. So for example, somebody who is scared of being burgled would, repeatedly check all of the windows, doors, and locks in their house several times before they could actually feel comfortable enough to leave home. So I was actually diagnosed with OCD about 3 years ago, and it presents differently in everybody who has the condition. But for me, it is comprised of 3 elements. So there is the compulsive behaviors, and then there is the intrusive thoughts, and then for me, the one that impacts me the most is rumination or overthinking. So for me, the compulsive behaviors, it does affect me, but I would say that it's more mild. It's not as severe as some people have it. So I feel like everything has to be in its own specific place at home. So I can give you an example. I can't relax or feel at ease if the cup isn't in its right place, if the keys aren't in their right place, if my shoes aren't all lined up in a row. I check the door constantly, my main door at home, to make sure that it's locked. I'll do that multiple times over the course of the day. I always check to make sure that I've turned things off at the sockets in the wall. For example, my oven, because I'm worried that something will catch fire at home. I didn't realize before that I compulsively count in my head. And from going to therapy, that's something that I've realized as well, that is a compulsive behavior, where if I am, for example, on the bus, I will compulsively count the number of people that I can see out of the window on the street, or I'll count the number of cars, or I'll count the number of road signs until I get up to a number that I feel makes me feel comfortable. And I didn't realize that I did that before. I was subconsciously doing it. And all of these compulsive behaviors that I do, getting to the root cause of it, it's because I feel like I need to control my surroundings in a need to feel safe inside. The other element of OCD that I've been affected by is intrusive thoughts. So that's when I have unwanted thoughts or images that just pop into my head and they cause me distress, because I feel like, why do I keep thinking about this? And I don't want to think about it at all. In the past, it was related to, the sexual abuse that I experienced as a child, where I can visualize in detail what I went through and what I experienced, down to, smells, images, sounds, really like a whole sensory experience, which caused me a lot of distress. And also intrusive thoughts related to suicidal ideation, where I just kept thinking that I would be better off dead, and that thought just kept coming into my head, and it wouldn't leave me, no matter how hard I tried to stop thinking about it. And yeah, that caused me a lot of distress. I also have intrusive thoughts about people who are no longer in my life, people who have hurt me in the past. I'm constantly reminded of memories of them, even though I'll probably never speak to them again or never see them again. I daily replay memories with them in my head, which causes me a lot of distress and anxiety, because I want to move on with my life and forget them, but I'm constantly reminded of painful memories associated with somebody who hurt me from the past, and I can't stop thinking about it. Sometimes I wish that I could just flick a switch and forget about certain people, or I wish that I could just rewire my brain entirely. And it leads you into a continuous cycle of obsessive thoughts that is really hard to break. So the third element of OCD, which has affected me the most, is rumination or overthinking. And that really affects my daily life, especially my productivity, because I feel like my brain is constantly overthinking about everything, but mainly around social interactions and relationships that I have with other people. Because you can imagine that my brain is working at twice the speed as a regular person's is, and it affects my productivity. I'm expending so much mental energy where I could be focusing on other things, more productive. I could be doing more productive things. And at the end of each day, I'm usually mentally exhausted because of my brain and the rumination and the overthinking that I'm doing. So rumination has greatly affected my relationships with other people. And that is due to things that people say, things that people have done, and often things that I've been told by other people that someone has done or said about me. And I will overthink what they have done or said, because I'm trying to understand why and get really to the root cause of why someone would say something about me or why someone would do something that would impact me. Me personally, I practice mindfulness and mindful thinking. So I always think before I speak. I always pause and reflect before I say anything, because I'm self-aware, and I don't feel like some people do that. Some people don't think before they speak. They just blurt something out without realizing the impact that it could have on another person. Especially when it's an off-the-cuff remark, I will go away and I will leave a social interaction ruminating and thinking for days, sometimes weeks. Why did that person say that about me? Or why did that person say that to me? Because I rehearse conversations in my head, and everything that I do and I say is intentional, but I don't feel like other people actually do that. And now that I'm a lot happier within myself, unfortunately, I've had to cut a lot of people out of my life, people who I have known for a long time, years, even decades in some instances, because I can't allow anyone to disturb my inner peace. If I leave an interaction with someone, or if I have a conversation with someone where I go away doubting myself and questioning that person's intentions, then that affects my mental health. And I'm not going to allow anybody to disturb what I've worked so hard to achieve, especially when I've experienced depression and suicidal thoughts in the past. So, I wish everybody well at the end of the day, but I'm not going to allow anybody to drag me down. Something that I think is particularly cruel is that if you know that someone suffers from obsessive compulsive disorder and rumination and overthinking, is that if you don't give them closure in a situation, if you're not honest with them, there's been instances where they've not been honest with me. And there's been other instances where I can sort of instinctively know, because I'm a highly intuitive person, and I also observe people's body language, their posture, eye contact. I'm observing people, and I can tell when they're not being honest with me. And I overthink why somebody would not be honest, why somebody would not give you closure, if a relationship or a friendship has ended. And it doesn't lead to me villainizing the other person. It leads to me going in a cycle of overthinking, and it always comes back to self-doubt. It damages my mental health and my sense of self-worth, where I always think that it's my fault and I must have done something wrong for this person to do this thing or not be honest with me, and it affects me mentally. So I think it's particularly cruel if you know that someone suffers from OCD and you don't show up in the right way, or if you're not self-aware or conscious enough about your own behaviours, or if you just demonstrate a lack of accountability, especially when people act like a victim in a situation that they've created themselves, and then they get upset at my reaction to their behaviour. So as I said before, I've had to cut out people like that from my life, because it always leads to me feeling worse about myself and thinking that it's my fault and I've done something wrong, and it affects my inner peace. And now that I have such a higher sense of self-worth, I'm not going to allow myself to go back to how it was before, when my mental health was in crisis. So something that has helped me a lot with dealing with my own OCD, especially my rumination and my obsessive thoughts, is going to therapy, especially learning how to practice self-care and self-compassion, and really just take care of myself and prioritize my own mental health above everything else at the end of the day. And when it comes to rumination, something that my therapist always tells me is that ruminating about a situation, an experience, or a person, it never leads you anywhere. It's just a cycle of, it actually leads to more questions. And the analogy that she uses is that it's a snake eating its tail. And when it comes to the compulsive behaviours, like I said before, I don't have that severe or moderate, it's quite mild. But if I do feel, uncomfortable or uneasy about objects or things that need to be in a specific place, I always tell myself that, what is the worst thing that could happen, really? And I remind myself that I'm okay, I'm going to be all right, everything is going to be fine, and I'm safe. The last thing that I want to say is that for anybody watching out there, you should always prioritize your mental health above everything and above everyone. Your mental health matters the most. At the end of the day, the most important relationship you will ever have in your entire life will be with yourself. So thank you for watching this video. I hope that you have found what I've shared meaningful. If you are suffering from OCD, please seek help from a therapist or a counsellor. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Take care.